Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers, is brought to you by Scoville.com. Try Scoville.com's hot sauce subscription box, where you pick the heat, flavor, and food pairings you want in your box. Get 1 or 3 bottles delivered to your door each month. Choose your heat level, flavor profile, and food pairings. And it's completely customizable each month. You no longer have to worry about getting sauces you don't like or won't use. Scoville.com specially curates each month's box based on your personal preferences. And best of all, High Desert Sauce Co., Butterfly Bakery of Vermont, and Irish Spike's unique hot sauces are all available at Scoville.com. Welcome to Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers. I'm Spike.
And I'm Claire.
And Gabe. And Zach is gone tonight. Today we're talking to Gabe from Spicy. Oh, God. Today we're talking to Gabe from Spicy Shark. Wow.
Hi, Gabe.
Who knew it was a tongue twister, but I guess it is.
Yeah, who knows?
Shark bit you early.
Apparently it is for me.
How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Excellent.
Welcome to the shit show.
Happy to be here.
Say it, Claire. Let's both say it this time.
Okay. Welcome to the shit show.
There you go. That's for Zach.
That's Zach's line. He gets mad when we say it. But
Yeah.
if he's not here, he can't get mad.
He'll still get mad. So, Gabe, tell us about your history with spicy foods and how it led you to have a hot sauce company.
Yeah, well, I was originally raised in a middle-class family. Just kidding. I am from originally northern New Jersey and the North Fork of Long Island. And the area I grew up in, most of my friends were actually Indian and Asian, where I went to middle school and grade school and high school. So I was eating super hot foods at a really young age. And me and my friend group's favorite, there was a fast food chain called Curry in a Hurry. And they were in northern New Jersey and in Manhattan. And so I was eating super flavorful, super hot curries and, different ethnic food at a young age. My mom was always into really spicy things. So we would always, eat Thai at a young age. So I definitely got the heat bug very early in my life. And then, eventually became the guy who was always doing the wing contests and, the friend that someone's always buying the hottest hot sauce for. And then me and my sister actually started messing around with sauces, with hot sauces, probably 10, 12 years ago. And she's married to a Jamaican guy. And he was growing Scotch bonnets in his backyard. And I didn't really know much about Scotch bonnets at that time. I wasn't really, other than just really liking to eat hot, spicy things. But my sister's a trained chef, and we started messing around with those Scotch bonnets and eventually developed what is now the original Spicy Shark hot sauce recipe, although it now has habanero. It's essentially the same recipe or close to it, but has habanero instead of Scotch bonnets. But it was her husband Earl's Scotch bonnet garden that got us messing around with it. And eventually that was what led me to start it. So yeah, we started in 17, 18. We sold our first bottle in February of 19, but became incorporated, as a business in, I think it was September of 2018.
It's about the same time I did.
Very nice.
Yeah, our birthday is October 20th, but we were setting everything up over the course of 2018.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Awesome.
Twinsies.
You and I and Zach are all tied at the same time there.
And I'm just the old lady over here.
Well, Claire's geriatric compared to that. But what's crazy is I feel like, Spike, that we're still, the way craft hot sauce continues to explode, that we're like old grizzled veterans compared to how many companies have started in the last years.
I mean, anybody who was around before COVID,
The number of times that we asked that question of like, how did you get here? And the story is, well, I lost my job due to COVID and I really like hot sauce. So, and that's what, I mean, it's not a bad story for everybody who's listening who has that story, but it's a very common story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny for New England Hot Sauce Fest, which is our hot sauce festival, and Claire and Butterfly are always at it. I think Claire, Angry Goat, and High River, there's like 3 or 4 companies that have been around longer than Spicy Shark, and everyone else there. And there's like another 30 companies, or not all of them, but most of them are after that. So it is incredible. It reminds me, I was in the beer business for 17 years before I left to start the Spicy Shark. And it just reminds me of kind of the craft beer boom, maybe 15, 20 years ago. And,
Absolutely.
What's happening the last 5 years, it's wild. But it's great. There's a lot of incredible companies and a lot of incredible sauces. And I think it's definitely good for the category.
And I'm just ready for all the big companies to come buy us all out like they did with the beer.
Ain't happening. No, Budweiser, you can't buy me.
They can buy me.
I think for that wave to start happening, they have to start seeing the importance of the craft brand. So in the early beer industry, when they were buying craft breweries, they would just totally gut them and totally change what the company was and what they were doing, and and all of that. And the more modern purchases really are just they buy them and they let them be. They let them continue to operate. They let them continue to be who they are. And we see that in the specialty food industry a lot as well. And I think that's once they see the value in hot sauce being, not just a bottle of hot sauce or not just the recipe, but the whole brand. That's, I think, when you'll start seeing craft hot sauce brands.
It never ceased to amaze me, though, how the big boys in the beer business would just destroy the greatest craft brands. Like growing up out on Long Island, Blue Point, loved that company. But I don't even think you can. Their toasted lager was awesome. I don't even think it's out there anymore. And then, when Corona bought Ballast Point for $1 billion, I mean, that was insane. I don't even think Ballast Point's in New England. And I love the Sculpin IPA, was a great beer, and they crushed that brand. I mean, Goose Island, when Bud bought Goose Island, tried to bring it everywhere. Now you can't get that. And it's wild. But it's funny because I have friends be like, oh, so when are you going to do this another 5 years and then, get bought out? And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't know how tight my margins are. So I don't know how much everyone's going to buy and buying me. And secondly, honestly, outside of my family, my 2 favorite things in life are hot sauce and shark. So I found a way to combine them. So
there you go.
What the hell am I going to do if I ever sold? So there's this is it. This is to the grave. I have no desire to get rid of it. I love every bit about the Spicy Shark, and so happy I started, and it makes me so happy. And so even if someone would want to buy us, which I don't know why they would, the answer would be no.
And Gabe, you in the beer industry, you were doing sales, right?
I was always sales and marketing. I mean, I got into brewing and know the basics and all that kind of stuff. But no, I was sales and marketing for the Boston Beer Company. So Sam Adams, Angry Orchard, Twisted Tea, kind of right around when I was leaving, we had just launched Truly Spiked and Sparkling, the hard seltzer, which is now, I believe, bigger than even Twisted Tea and Angry Orchard.
And it is disgusting.
Yeah, I never really was too into, and I drink a lot of seltzer, but I was never too into the hard seltzers. But yeah, I was always sales and marketing, and then my last job was the region sales manager for Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Yeah, I did that like the last 10 years, and then really actually left. Spicy Shark was in my head, but I left to run our family's wedding venue, which, believe it or not, I still do in Norway, Maine. So I'm at least able to kind of do it remotely now. But yeah, so I run our family's wedding venue that we started 11 years ago. And then I still do some things in real estate. But Spicy Shark is my baby. Spicy Shark is my company. I absolutely, put my full energy into it, but doesn't pay all the bills. So you got to do some other things.
Well, we'll keep working on that. And I guess one thing that we should say that, and I think Spike, but I make Gabe's sauce. Listeners may not know that. So
the greatest co-packer in all of the earth.
And I didn't pay you to say that.
No.
He paid you.
Don't charge me storage this month.
I'm Claire George. I own Butterfly Bakery of Vermont. We make hot sauce, mustard, cookies, and granola, and 100% of our products are made with Vermont ingredients. The thing that I hear most often from people is that my hot sauce tastes like the peppers that are in it. We do really simple recipes that don't get too crazy and nitpicky, just to really accentuate the flavor of the peppers that are in there. The unique thing about our hot sauces is how much we feature the farm and the relationship with the farm, and really bring the terroir of Vermont to our hot sauces. I am pretty sure I am the #1 purchaser of Vermont-grown chili peppers. I would love it if there would be a legitimate pepper market in Vermont where people would know Vermont for its peppers. We're all better for supporting each other. You know, and I think that part really shows itself with the collaborations that I do with the other businesses and the other farms, that I love working together and coming up with new ideas and presenting each other with new challenges. And I think overall that's the attitude here, and I absolutely love it because that's my attitude. I try to live my life with love. The ingredients that I use, I would say that my values are reflected in that, that I use ingredients that, again, feel good, feel loving, feel supportive. The relationship with the farmer was how it all began. If I changed the reason for it being, if I went out and bought some commodity peppers, you know, it might not be as good.
You can find Butterfly Bakery of Vermont hot sauce, mustard, granola, and cookies at butterflybakeryvt.com.
We make Gabe, we make more sauce for you than for any other hot sauce specific company.
I remember when you told me that, and I actually was surprised because I thought the Butterfly brand was probably still bigger than Spicy Shark.
We might be, no, I mean, I think it's complicated because we do a lot of co-packing that's like, it's our product, but it's not our brand.
Right.
And so we've got some things that are like that.
So maybe with white label it's bigger, and without it's not.
Yeah. But I would have to do the math, but you were definitely the one that we make the most like co-pack sauce for.
Yeah, someone was asking me, because there's so little craft hot sauce in grocery, and when I was in the beer business, you live and die by IRI data, and you're always looking at it and analyzing it. And we're fortunate that we're in Whole Foods for the Northeast, which is great. That's our only kind of, if you want to call that a big box store, even though it's pretty unique versus other grocery. Most of our brand lives in the independents. Outside of Whole Foods being the one exception. I get asked a lot, like, oh, where do you rank in New England or the Northeast for size? And I go, honestly, the answer is I don't know, because it's just kind of, you talk to other makers and have a sense, of how many bottles they make in a year. And I'd imagine Spicy Shark is up there probably for New England in the top 3. I would think Butterfly would definitely be in the top 3 would be my guess, and a couple other brands come to mind. But at the end of the day, you just don't know, other than just asking your other friends and owners in the industry.
Well, I mean, we're all private. We're all privately owned, so there's no obligation to report that information,
right.
And nobody does. And I don't think 97% of us probably wouldn't know where to report it to if we wanted to. So.
Yeah, I pay attention, like even Tabasco is technically still privately owned, but I like looking at their IRI data just to see where they are in size, just because they're everywhere. And pretty wild that they're still independently owned, actually.
Did you know that Cholula sold to McCormick for, I think it was 8 times revenue?
I don't remember. I remember reading the article when it happened, because I remember when that happened, then Tabasco became the only, big boy, I think in the top 6 or 7 that was still independent. I didn't know it was 8 times gross. That's high.
It's really high. And it's, there's all this, I've been pulling all this data, but hot sauce is a $3 billion global industry. And I think condiments are 80 billion or something.
And last I looked, still outpacing growth of mayo, ketchup, mustard, outpacing growth of every other condiment combined.
Yep.
Every year.
Yeah. The condiment industry is 6.7% compound annual growth rate. And I think hot sauce is 7.7, something like that. But farm to fork, because that's important for us, farm to table is 11% compound annual growth rate. So yeah, something like that. Don't quote me on those numbers. I don't have them right in front of me.
Just made them up out of thin air.
Just thin air.
You sounded confident saying it. So.
It's really close to that. I know that I'm conflating. Well, I don't know that I'm conflating. I know I have the the possibility of conflating those numbers because
Well, you
just
have a
lot
good
of fun.
track record of telling the truth, so I'll take your word for it.
I try. Gabe, sharks. Tell us how you got into sharks and why they're such a big part of what you do.
I love sharks. So I saw the movie Jaws when I was 8 years old and became absolutely fascinated. Like, became obsessed with the movie. Even as starting at age 8, watch it 10 times a year. Always go on boats out on Montauk and try to see sharks. And actually, almost went to University of Miami to become a marine biologist, and then got freaked out I wouldn't make any money, and instead went to business school undergrad. And so I really was, for a long time, just a crazy Jaws fanatic and kind of a fan of all things shark and all things aquatic. And everything changed for me in 2012 when I was on Amity Island, better known as Martha's Vineyard, for the 2012 Jaws Fest. So it was the second time they had ever done a Jaws Fest. And I was just going as a big Jaws fan. And I got to meet Wendy Benchley, who is the wife of the late Peter Benchley, who wrote the book Jaws, that obviously Spielberg then later made into a movie in '75. And she gave me like half an hour of her time, and it was the most impactful conversation because at the time I just loved the movie. And she let me know that she had started this nonprofit called Shark Savers, and that over 100 million sharks were getting killed every year by humans, which still sadly is happening. And just all these things that I had no clue about at all. I'd never thought that they were an endangered species or anything like that. And I got really into it, immediately joined Shark Savers, started getting involved in my personal life on the nonprofit conservation aspect. Eventually, went from, being in awe of sharks, but fearful of sharks, to then taking up scuba diving, getting to the point being comfortable, being with sharks in the water. And now I, proactively go diving with sharks. Last year I had an awesome bull shark dive out in Jupiter, Florida. So it was pretty cool. It was an open ocean dive with 3 bulls. And it was great because it was a couple of days before Valentine's Day, and our lead diver who was doing the feeding, I didn't feed any of them. We're about maybe 10 yards away, but close enough. And one of them was named Cupid, so that was very appropriate for me. I had been with hammers and sand tigers and sandbars, but that was my first time with bull sharks, which was, you still, even when I've done it a few times now, it's still a little bit intimidating when you're open water with a shark that, if they wanted to, would destroy you so quickly, but they don't want to, and we're not their prey. And once you get comfortable with it, you realize, all of pretty much 99.9% of any shark attack is an accident. They immediately let go after the one bite because they immediately realize you're not prey. And unfortunately, a lot of times that one bite is enough and you bleed out, and that's that. But when you're in in an environment where you know what you're doing and you're also with a group, it is pretty safe. Kind of that's the short answer, and then got really into the diving. So when I was thinking of a name, I'm like, the Spicy Shark, duh, of course. And initially it was Spicy Shark, but that URL was taken. And so it became the Spicy Shark for that reason. And then eventually the person who had Spicy Shark, eventually I got it. And now it's hooked in. So if you went to spicyshark.com, we would go to the spicyshark.com.
Awesome.
So a big part of our brand is focus on shark conservation. So there's a lot of different kind of phases of that. Some of it is very simple, like monetary donation that I do to different nonprofits. I work with a lot, and a lot of them know me and I know a lot of them, but there's kind of 5 or 6 core nonprofits that I do a lot with. So we'll sponsor some of their programs. Like we just sponsored the big Run for Sharks with Shark Stewards out in California. I'm a corporate sponsor for Fins Attached. They're actually in Colorado. And but we do campaigns together. Like I worked a lot with the Shark Allies in Florida for the no fin ban before it got signed into law. The United States shark fin ban. It was a state by state thing, so I got really involved with them. And DeSantis passed that in Florida before it became the federal one. That was the 14th state. Also Governor Murphy in New Jersey. Those happened kind of at the same time. So I get really active in it. And The top three things that kill sharks, number one by far is the shark fin trade, where they're chopping off the fins, and it happens every ocean it happens in. The majority of the consumption is in Asian countries. Then the second is bycatch. So you get these huge gill nets and drag nets, and it's awful. It's these nets, and I'm very pro fisherman. I eat seafood, but these nets, they're just 24/7 like killing machines, and they kill everything. So you got a gill net out in the ocean for 3 days. Anything that goes into that net is dead. Maybe 30% of it is what they wanted to catch, and the other 70% is sharks and dolphins and drag nets that are dragging across the ocean. So these nets just like rape the oceans. So much bycatch. So a ton of sharks are killed by that. So it's only legislation that really can stop those kind of things. And some states do it, but not in other countries. The majority of the problem is not the United States. And then the thing that I get really passionate about and that I've had success personally with is shark killing tournaments. So we were a really big part of helping end the last 2 shark killing tournaments in New England, Block Island, Rhode Island, and Newburyport, Massachusetts. And very different techniques. Like one in Newburyport, I got really close with the mayor and the city council, and we were able to work it kind of through local government because those guys were using their pier, the town of Newburyport's pier. With Block Island, it was more talking to locals, getting an op-ed in the Block Island Times, and getting friends of mine to go down there and kind of as activists. So yeah, it's a big part of the brand. It's what I do. It's every time someone orders from us, I have a shark conservation card, which kind of highlights the nonprofits that I work with. The back has some documentaries that I really recommend. I'll throw one out there for anyone who's listening if they're interested in anything I'm talking about at the moment.
Flavor Balance Heat is brought to you by High Desert Sauce Co. out of Tucson, Arizona. Zach is the owner and creative mind behind High Desert Sauce Co.'s hot sauces. He says, at High Desert Sauce Co. we make sauces that we love. The balance of bold heat and fresh flavor is the heart of our philosophy. We keep it simple by using the best ingredients we can get our hands on and letting the natural flavors run the show. High Desert Sauce Co. Just the good stuff. Visit High Desert at hdsauceco.com.
But Finn, which was done by Eli Roth, he's actually a New England guy from Massachusetts. He's a horror movie director, Hostel, things like that. He's also been in a few Quentin Tarantino movies. He's like into really like gory horror, not my thing, but he's very talented, and he's super passionate about shark conservation. He always does Shark After Dark and during Shark Week, and he spent 5 years of his life making this documentary Finn, which is streaming on Discovery Plus, and it's a great watch to understand what's going on out there, and because it's really unfortunate.
I remember seeing something Gordon Ramsay did a special on it a few years ago.
He did a really good one too. That's one of the ones on my card actually is Gordon Ramsay's documentary. There's some great ones out there, and a lot of the messaging is pretty similar, just done in different ways. But yeah, it's pretty. It's just such an unregulated. I mean, the oceans are so vast; it's so unregulated. Even if good legislation gets passed, there's very little accountability. So it is. You try to have a big picture, like I am making impact by doing these things, but it has to change culturally. Like the people have to stop wanting to eat shark fin soup. There needs to be more, fishermen hopefully take more responsibility in what they're doing. And you got to hope things change culturally for it to really happen. Because I don't think the league, you need legislation, you need laws, of course, but I don't really think that's what's going to solve the problem.
Well, my daughter is going to be so happy. Well, she was so happy when I told her that I talked to you at Fiery Foods. But she is a shark fanatic too. Everything shark. She just everything. And she's talked about
in Idaho, the lakes there.
Well, we're originally from Southern California, so that does help. But she has talked about going to school to be a marine biologist, and
nice.
Yeah. So,
how old is she?
She is 21.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very nice. So then she's serious about it if she's talking about it at 21.
She is. I mean, I hope so. It's one of those things that at 21 we're never really serious about anything, but she really likes it.
So I have this is unrelated to. Well, I mean, this is for all of us. The what is it? The thing that we all have to file as business owners by the end of the year for the federal government, the beneficial owner report. Beneficial owner. Do you guys know about this? I've been getting like a million emails about it, and I realized we haven't talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
I
feel like I've seen something, but I don't remember.
I feel like I haven't.
Yes, let me find the thing. Beneficial ownership information report. You have to file this by the end of the year, and if you don't, it is, let's see what this is. This says, new filing requirements for LLC, S Corp, and C Corp. So this is, you have to state who the beneficial owners are for a company. This is to prevent financial fraud. And there are significant fines if you don't do this by 12/31, including something like $500 a day or something.
This is federal, not state, you're saying?
This is federal, yeah.
Okay.
It says you're now required to submit a business ownership information report to the U.S. Treasury. This filing ensures transparency in business ownership, and missing the deadline could result in fines of $500 plus per day starting January 1st, 2025. And it's pretty straightforward. I just went and did mine. It's free. There are a lot of companies that will help you on it. Like my accountant does it, and my payroll service will do it. Oh,
sorry about that.
My payroll service will do it for like $50, or they'll charge you, but you can do it for yourself. And it's free, and it's pretty straightforward. You have to have your driver's license, and you upload a picture of your driver's license, and you put in your name and who you are. If there's any other owners of the company, every owner of the company has to put in their information. And you only have to do it once unless your ownership status changes. So if an owner leaves or an owner joins on in the company, then you have to do it. Then you have to file. You have to add them on.
I have not seen anything on that. I thought I did, but no, I haven't.
So I will forward you the information. I'm trying to see if there's something I can just read to people. There we go. So it's FinCEN's but it's www.fincen.gov/BOI. is the website. And and I figured we should be talking about it because people need to know this information. And for you guys, I will, let's see, we got a chat here. I'll drop it in the chat. I've never actually dropped it in the chat before, but I can drop something in the chat. Here we go. There you go. There it is.
Hey, look at that thing in the chat.
Yeah. So, pretty straightforward, but you got to do it. Every business has got to do it. I just realized I actually own another business. I should do it for that business too.
Oops.
That business doesn't really do much, but it does exist, and it does file taxes every year. So
You're not talking about the goat milk. You're saying something altogether.
No, the Fat Toad Farm is a brand, but no, I own because I own my building, and you're never supposed to have a business own its own building. I don't know, it's a thing. So when I bought the building,
we do it with our wedding venue, it's separate.
Exactly. Yeah, the different company owns that. Yeah, so I started CG Maple Properties. Only exist to own the building that Butterfly Bakery rents from it, and I own both companies. So
interesting.
But I should file that for this too. I can't forget that business exists. So everybody should do that.
Well, and I just filled out the thing that our state does like an hour ago, which is kind of weird.
What's timing. Is your state one similar to that, or?
It's probably much more simple. It's just like, hey, verify this information, and that's it. Once a year. Yeah,
because we've got a filing that we have to do in Vermont. That's it's like because we're an S corp, and so as an S corp, the S corps don't pay taxes themselves, but the owners pay the taxes, and so the S corp just has to pay a filing it's not the it's the entity tax.
Is it possible that you got this because you are an S corp, and maybe it depends on the type? Because I'm just a single member LLC. I'm wondering if
this is LLC, S corp, and C corp, and this is I've been getting it. I feel like I've been getting notified by everybody. This particular email that I brought up that has so much great information on it is a coaching program that I belong to. But then even, we use Gusto for payroll, and they were like, hey, we can help you file this, $50. And then I was like, let me just see if I can do it myself. And I did.
Most of the time, that's the thing. It's like, no. I can pay you $50 or I can spend an hour.
Well, I had asked my accountant to help me with it because I was like, what is this? Okay, sure, let's do that. And
so this was just an email that went to your email, or this was a snail mail?
This was an email. I mean, I've gotten lots of emails about it, but this is, if you look it up, it's real.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Department of the Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And this is, I think when I first saw it, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, whatever. Is it just like one of those surveys we have to fill out? Like, sure, fine. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, nope, got to do this.
Okay.
So.
I'm surprised I haven't seen anything on it. I'm glad you said something because I need to get that shit taken care of.
Don't want to get fined.
Awesome.
Flavor Balance Heat, the podcast for hot sauce lovers and makers, is brought to you by Irish Spike's unique hot sauces and Vandal pepper sauces. I'm Spike, the owner and executive saucier. Our sauces are handmade in the Pacific Northwest using the best possible ingredient. We believe that hot sauce equates to a balance of sensational heat coupled with a robust and complex flavor profile. Live your hottest life with Irish Spikes. Irish Spike's unique hot sauces and Vandal pepper sauces are available at saucecult.com.
So, Gabe, what's your process for making new sauce?
So there are, the process, there's the people, and then there's the kind of the concept. So there's 3 of us that are involved. It's myself and 2 chefs. Those chefs happen to be my sister and a good friend of mine. And so I kind of come up with a concept, both in flavor profile and in heat level. So to give a little teaser, I was just at Butterfly Bakery a couple days ago with this magic thing right here, as you can tell. The last couple of days. So this guy right here is what is going to be our newest 6-fin. So we've got a very scientific 5-fin heat scale, and then I developed the 6-fin series, which just means one hotter. This one goes to 11. So basically, I think, well, you know what? I think I'll be able to answer that question best by talking about how I started the 6-fin series. So what was funny is when I started the company, like I'm a chili head. I love it scorching hot, but I also wanted to have a company that, makes money and a lot of people buy it and they want to buy more than, not one bottle lasts you 2 months. So I started the company and I made the initial sauces for launch with like a pretty, mild to wicked hot is our range. So, a 1-fin is a mild, a 2-fin is a warm, then a medium, then a hot, then a wicked hot. And, after a couple of years, I was like, my hottest sauce isn't hot enough for me. I was like, that's not all right. This is my company. So I was like, but at the time when we were working on it, it was just, it's so, I don't need to tell you guys, it is very difficult to make something blazing hot, but with a ton of flavor. So, when I was thinking about what to do hotter, I said, what? I've been to New Orleans 15 times. My favorite food to eat and cook is Cajun Creole food. And I was like, what? That Cajun spice blend is something that would really cut through a lot of heat. And if you've ever been to New Orleans, there's the saying goes, it all begins with the roux. So yes. Since all of our sauces are vegan, except for the hot honey, just honey, of course, can't be vegan by nature since it comes from an animal, from bees. But we start with a vegan roux, so it's sunflower oil, almond flour, went heavy on a Cajun spice blend. And, then plenty of ingredients, deep smoked onions. And, we use 4 hot peppers in that. It's got scorpion, Carolina Reaper, 7-Pop Primo, and habanero. So you kind of like, what's the style? All right, like a really nice Cajun style. That's something that could really, stand up to heat. And that's kind of like how that one started. And then the 6-fin after that, it was like, all right. And it got, it got rave reviews. It won best tasting super hot at the Scovies, which was awesome, and became super popular super fast. So being that it's, that's my heat level anyway, and being that we got such positive feedback, I was like, all right, for the next sauce, it'll probably be another 6-fin. And it was kind of similar, like, what is another, like, what are some flavors that can really dice through extreme heat? And I just think about all the food I was eating when I was young. Indian. So, hence the mako snake. So the hammergator is half hammerhead shark, half alligator. When we get into the 6-fin realm, they're creatures that only I have seen, but they're out there. So the Hamagata, half hammerhead shark, half alligator, and then the next one's the mako snake. So that one is Indian inspired. So it was like the amount of like crazy hot food, Indian food I've had that's also incredibly flavorful. Masala base, coconut milk, mango chutney, curry spices. And this new one is, kind of in the similar vein, not flavor profile, but similar vein in that it's Thai inspired. So I'm not going to give the name since we haven't kind of launched that yet. But this one is specifically green Thai curry. So definitely the coconut milk, like the mako snake, lemongrass, a lot of nice Thai spices in that. This one's a ghost pepper, reaper, habanero, some bird's eye, which is a Thai pepper. So this one's in development. We just did our first small batch with Claire for the co-pack. So we had our final stovetop, went to a 5-gallon. Then that went very well. There are a couple little things we need to screw around with to slightly tweak it. But it's pretty much the recipe is the recipe. But there's some tiny tweaks. We're going to do a 40-gallon in December, and then I'm working on the labels, all the our FDA lab to get all the nutritionals and all that. So probably if everything goes awesome, I'm thinking maybe mid-February launch. I think I kind of answered a very long-winded and meandering answer to your question, but so basically I kind of come up with what's the flavor profile I want to do, what's the heat level to match that, and then I'll always do the base recipe, and then I bring in my sister, my other buddy, who are more talented than me. They always help me make it better, and then by the three of us, then when we kind of have our final stovetop, we bring it to Vermont, and we start doing it at Butterfly, and then we start getting into real production.
I like that. And I like the way that your approach, having 3 people involved in the process is really good. It's not something you see as often as I think it should be more like that.
Yeah. Most of the time it seems like it's, just the owner or, I definitely have seen some combo efforts as well, but a lot of time it's, just solopreneur doing it.
Yeah. For me, it's just me, but one of the things that I do is when I make a sauce, I'll have a whole bunch of people taste it separately. And if anything correlates, then I start to work on that because I don't trust my own palate with everything.
What's funny is I basically do guerrilla focus groups whenever I'm doing a new sauce. So I like any event that I've had since I had what I thought was the final stovetop. I'd be at Hampton Beach Seafood Festival, and anyone, obviously I'm not just giving it to everyone, but anyone who's like into the super hot sauces, I'd kind of say, hey, here's the goals for the flavor, here's the goals for the heat, get feedback. And I really have gotten, feedback that has made me change things, whether with the heat or maybe I thought there wasn't enough sweetness, but people would tell me, no, the sweetness is great. And if you start hearing 10-1 that the sweetness is great, don't make it sweeter, I'll let that override my initial, opinion. But it's good to really take some time because I thought I had my final stovetop probably 2 months ago. And then I finally put it in the fridge and realized, oh, wait, the amount of coconut milk I have in this sauce, not only is it thick when it's cold, you can't get it out of the bottle. And I'm sure we've all had a hot sauce where after it's refrigerated, you can't get it out, and it just drives you insane. So we had to kind of reformulate a little bit. It's still a thicker sauce, and it will be a thick sauce. But if I had gone with it that way, it would have been very frustrating consumer experience. So there's always things like that too, aside from the focus groups. But no, I'm very big on kind of, casually doing samplings, kind of some coordinated and some very much just, I'm at the farmer's market I do on Sundays. Let's see what people say.
Yeah, I do the same thing.
And then also when you come to us, then there's always the process of just figuring out how it can work into the larger scale production. And
yeah, I always regret not going to Claire earlier because I think the recipe, and she's like, well, that was not, she says a lot nicer this, which it'll be like, no, we're not doing that, but no, that process is not smart. No, you want to have powder on that. We're not going to, no. And here's the thing though, she's always right. And I always listen. And it always reminds me to maybe I should start earlier in the process to declare first.
Well, and
there is a difference between a stovetop and a 200-gallon batch, and
yeah.
As you guys know, but not people.
Well, and your chef, I mean, he's his process is just really different from ours, and now we've worked together for so many years. I've gotten pretty good at transferring his recipes into something that works at the production level. But there's still things, I mean, in your original recipes that if you had brought them to us now, I would have pushed back on and I've been like, no, let's not do it this way. But now it's set in stone, and that's just how it is.
You should see when me and my sister have our recipe, I get the same feedback from my buddy, and he's like, no, that's stupid and this. So it's kind of like as it translates from like me and my sister's original recipe to his tweaks and him making it better. And like, it never is. I mean, it's always close to what your goals are, but there's so many changes along the way.
Have there been any near, or I wouldn't say arguments, but like, hey, I don't want to change this, and somebody else wants to change it, or back and forth? I mean, sister. That's why I said that.
Hard-headed, but that's kind of like it is my company, so I do win those battles. But no, for the most part, I mean, everyone has their own talents and what they bring to it. So it's actually pretty cohesive, honestly.
Gabe, I know I've told you this before, but I really appreciate how willing to work with us you are on things that are like the coconut milk. We've been trying to get away from the source of coconut milk for a while, and we've been trying to get into something different, and we haven't been able to find anything, and we keep finding stuff, and now finally we're able to find something that works better on our part in the kitchen that's going to work a little bit better. And this is just the perfect opopportunity to test it.
Well, I'll give a compliment back to you by saying you're a great advocate of your employees and your staff. And you've been clear for a while. They don't like the cans, and I don't want unhappy people making spicy shit.
Cans.
My employees would love,
We've wanted to, anything to make the process easier. Sometimes it'll end up even saving you a little bit of money, but that one's been a tough one. But now that this is our third sauce that uses coconut milk,
Well, and specifically when you were on Hot Ones, that we had a whole pallet of cans of coconut milk that we had to open one at a time, and that was so rough.
They were at least number 10, I hope.
Oh, yes. Oh my God, yes, yeah. But
so
no,
those are easy changes sometimes, where it's just a packaging thing or whatnot. And obviously, I think Claire's an incredible co-packer, and I want to be a good client as well. But it's a great relationship that way for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Gabe.
Yeah. Now I know what aseptic pouches are. I didn't know what they were before. And when Claire first said it, I was like, septic pouches? What the hell are you talking about? Aseptic. That extra letter is really important.
Yeah.
Aseptic.
And I have to say, so, we've gotten used to onboarding new products, new clients and new products and that we have a process for doing it. And it's pretty well designed process. Well, we have a new sauce that's going to come out next year, and we did not take our own advice on it. And we only realized it after we did a really large batch that we did not follow our onboarding process at all. And it's fine. But we made more mistakes. Made more mistakes than, unfortunately, as our own client, we were on site and can easily correct them quickly. But it's always a little when you make like a big batch and it doesn't come out as you expect it to come out. And then you're like, quick, what's the rescue? How do we make sure this is right? And and then I was like, should have followed our own process and not gone straight from a micro to a 200-gallon kettle.
I did the same thing with.
Were you able to successfully rescue it?
Yeah, it was fine. But it was right. That's how we're supposed to do it.
I did that with we did one, it was a benefit hot sauce, and we did it with chickpeas, because we have chickpeas all over the place here. And when we got done, this small batch was great. We scaled up and it was just like, oh, we'll just go. It's fine. And then it was like cement in the bottle. I mean, it just wouldn't come out.
Oh.
I had to throw the whole thing out.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So follow your own advice.
Yep.
And scale slowly. Don't just jump from 5 gallons to 200.
Yeah, I mean,
that
was a good learning too with the 5 gallon we just did is, from a consistency perspective. And then, we still have to, maybe we'll chat this week, Claire, about the 4 versus 5% vinegar and all that. And,
right. Yeah. And I apologize that I wasn't there as much as I did not.
You had the whole thing.
We had
by the way, not to, bore the anyone listening, but Ari is just awesome. So she was, I mean, you had a lot on your hands that day, and she's a total pro.
No, I really appreciate that when we have a client on site, like I can be like, here you go. Here's Ari. Have fun. Let me know if you need me.
Yeah. She's
really fantastic.
And, great to work with and very, very smart.
Yeah. I'll tell her that she needs to listen to those episodes so that she.
Yeah, absolutely. But because I mean, we saw the evaporation was kind of taken off a little bit, but we also had a good conversation about how we're going to adjust for that for the 40 gallon, and we just have to get on the same page on the different, the 1% different of the acetic and the vinegar just to make sure. And
I want to be there for the 40 because I definitely had for just when Ari shared with me afterward and what you shared with me when you were leaving. Just there, I have some thoughts about that too that we can dial that in, right?
Good.
So, I'll be there. I won't have an organic inspection on the same day.
Yeah. Don't do that. I didn't know that was what the inspection was. Did you pass?
Oh yeah, no, actually she was. Oh, so you appreciate this. So, or at least Spike, we've talked about traceability and all of that stuff.
Yes.
And we have to keep special records for organic productions. And when we were going through that and they were doing the audit and all the details, she was like, you keep really good records. And I was like, that is the first time anybody's ever said that to me. And we have been working hard at keeping good records for a really long time. And so it felt
the bureaucrats are saying that, then that's
right. I was like, we have made it. We have made
That
it.
is fantastic.
It was really great. Yeah. I was very, very proud. Which also, those really good records are in part my inventory system. And I don't know if I told you guys this, our inventory system, the code in it had a bug and it was corrupting our data. Yeah. Which is wild, right?
What was was it a consistent corruption? Like it changed?
No. So what would happen, they had a beta version and they said, here, the beta version had some new features that we liked. And they're like, here, use the new beta version. It's, a little bit different on the surface, but all the, everything else is the same. So we're like, great. And so some of our staff were using beta and some were using the classic version. And when somebody was using the beta, which Ari was using the beta, when she would edit a process, which is how we run our recipes through this inventory system, there was a mistake in the code that would grab every process as a process number, and then every line in the process has a line number. And it would grab the line number and swap it with the process number. And so it would edit a random line of data from a different process, from an unrelated process. Some of these processes were like over a year ago.
Wow.
And so we discovered it because we kept noticing these problems and we thought it was our fault because we were like, clearly we're not doing this well. Something is wrong. Somebody's doing something weird. But we've been really like on point, daily checking, making sure all the numbers are exactly what they're supposed to be. And then suddenly so Robert, who manages like the quality of our inventory system, on Monday, he looked at everything looked good. Tuesday, he was out sick. Wednesday, he came in and he just hit refresh on that same screen. And all of a sudden we had these huge negative numbers that shouldn't exist. And they went back into October of 2023. And we went back to this recipe in October of 2023. We made a batch of sriracha and it had no output line. So it used all these ingredients and didn't become anything, which is not even something you can do. You can't save a process that has no output line. And so I reached out to them and I was like, what is this? And they dug through it and they said, we're the only person who's experienced this problem, which no, we're the only ones who've caught it. And And it stinks because they're pretty much like, well, yeah, you got to fix that. Stop using the beta, and then you're just got to fix your numbers. They're not like taking responsibility for it, which.
So wait, do you have to go through each corrupted one individually?
No. So they had a solution for fixing some of the corrupted data, but we figured out that we actually had problems going back as long as when we started using the beta. So April is when we started using it. And we finally decided that we needed to get our numbers accurate. That was the main thing that we needed. Also, this program, if anything goes negative historically, it affects your dollar value in the future. And so this was actually the more catastrophic part about this whole bug, is that so we had if something went to negative, it causes weird floating dollar values. So we had a single bottle of honey pear mead hot sauce that our inventory system valued at $52 because all these wacky things happened. And the only way to correct for that, besides correcting the historic data, which we can't correct things in 2023 because we've already done our taxes and everything. And so the only way to fix that is to bring it down to zero and then bring it back up. If there's a zero stop in the middle, then it keeps it from being wrong. And we realized we had to fix that. So we just brought everything in our inventory down to zero, and then we brought it back up. Fortunately, we had just done a physical inventory, so we were able to put it against that. We had values that we could put in because the values in there were basically garbage. And and it turns out it had been overvaluing our inventory, which thankfully we didn't go into the new year with this wrong value, but it overvalued our entire inventory by like $60,000. Yeah. It's just like, I am livid.
So, but no accountability, you're saying, from the company.
Yeah. And it's like, they are an inventory system that I would enthusiastically recommend, except for this. And it's frustrating because it's nothing to do with the functionality of the product, and obviously don't use the beta. But now I'm so frustrated that they're not willing to make me whole again, that I'm responsible for that. That just seems like, Gabe, we once fucked up an entire batch of your thresher. And
I remember.
And we paid for it. We put orange oil in instead of orange extract. Oops. It was supposed to be a Chipotle hot sauce, and it tasted like an orange creamsicle.
I guess in hindsight, we could have done a new limited release.
It was bad.
Dessert sauce.
It was bad. It was not good. It was not right. Well, and I think we tried to do the math. Could we scale up the rest of it? And it was just a 40-gallon batch because back then it was a lot smaller, but we would have had to, it's like a 5 times recipe. We would have had to do 200 gallons to make up the difference of that 40-gallon.
That moment that you realize that you have to get rid of a whole thing is the worst. It is the worst. So bad. At
least it was a 40 and not a 200, because now all of our, we've grown, so all of them are 200. Yeah. So the fuck ups are more exciting if it happens.
Well, I just think about the fire that we had, and if we had been making one of your sauces when that happened, having to throw out an entire 200-gallon batch of sauce would just be, good God. I'm so glad that we weren't making one of your sauces then.
That's the thing, is that for us now, is that now that we've gone up to 40 gallons, because we were doing smaller pots before, we had 25. Yeah. It's just cost so much more money.
Yeah.
Ingredients didn't used to be a big deal. It cost a couple hundred, but now it's it's a lot. And so I'm like, you guys, we've got to be exact on this stuff. Wow. Yeah. Just scaling up is, we've just learned just how different it is. We had US Foods and Cisco bought sauce from us within the same week. So we had, hundreds of cases going out for the first time, that many. And then suddenly you have to make more so that if they put in another order and, so they've got the money from all that, but then we have to pay for it to get made again. So we're down twice until they pay us. And that's been an issue, a different issue.
Well, how did that relationship start? You just named 2 huge hitters for distributors.
One of them, I kind of grandfathered in, and then the other one just picked us up because a bunch of their customers were asking for our sauces, so we got really lucky on that. Yeah. So Cisco just picked us up.
Big, go to you because they're hearing about it in the trade. That's a pretty big compliment.
It is. It has everything to do with our area. People really love our Vandal pepper sauce. It's our other line, and people love the Vandal pepper sauce. It's like a big deal in Idaho, so it's kind of nice. Yeah.
Are you coming back to Albuquerque in March?
I think so. Depends on how finances go. That's our slow time of year, and so it depends on how things go through the slow time. But very likely, and we won't be there. We'll just go like we did last time.
Right. Well, please bring that. I'd love to. Obviously, I'll trade you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Try that.
Yeah, other than what I tried at Fiery Foods, I haven't tried very many of yours either. And I need to fix that.
Trade is on the books.
Yeah, there we go.
The sauce that made Idaho famous.
Join us for part 2 of our interview with Gabe from Spicy Shark next week. This has been a Spike Mind Media production.